Welcome back to another episode here from the Off-Grid Garage in Australia. That's right. Before we start, we always want to know we've got 4.8 amps outside. Well, not 100% true, because I'm charging the big battery here, our battery number 2, from battery number 1. At the moment, everything is coming from solar. And I have still connected the JK BMS here to the battery number 2. And of course, want to do some more testing, want to learn, want to experience, want to see what is happening with this BMS. From the first test I made 2 days ago, it looks really good. Everything was working fine. The balancing was working. The high voltage, high current, high temperature cutoffs were working just out of the box. No modification. It was just working. So in today's video, we are diving in a little bit deeper into this BMS here. We are charging with both the e-bike charger here and the external power supply. At the moment around 5.5 amps going into the battery, which is tapering down already, because this one here charges only to 54.7 maximum and we are at 54.4 already. Yeah, I can show you here. Yeah, we are charging with less than 1 amp and it's going down further more. Well, this one sits a bit higher here from the voltage and still charges full blast. But this is totally fine, because look at cell number 4 it is, not cell number 3. 3.576. We have a cell which is running away. 209 millivolt deviation here. And it looks like this one is running away. If we go into the settings, I have set 3.6 volt as our over voltage protection cutoff. So as soon as this cell hits 3.6, which is very close, it should turn off the charger, right? I have completely turned off the balancer at the moment, because I wasn't expecting that one cell is actually going that high. I had all the cells sitting here in parallel for about 3 weeks. Completely in parallel, totally balanced. Well, that's not true, because the voltage was only 3.25 volts or something. You cannot balance a battery at 3.2 or 3.3 volts. That is not going to work. The voltage is the same, but the state of charge could be totally different, as we have seen from many tests we've done before here with the CKE Tech tester there. We could have a different end state of charge here of about 40 to 50%. Oh, I think the BMS has just turned off. There it comes, protection, cell over, voltage, and charging current goes to 0. Here I'm really trying to charge this battery up now, so we go to 3.45, 3.5 volts, and then we will have a look what the balancer actually does when we fully charge the battery to a 3.65 volts. This is the Kishu delivery I had a couple of months ago, and I have only capacity tested some of these cells, not all of them. So they are all in a completely different state of charge now. And we just need to charge these ones up a little bit here. 13 amps, 3.5 volts. The main concern is I've got only 21% battery left here. And all this charging equipment is connected to our main battery. And here, I found something cool. We've got the red number and the blue one. So red means this is our lowest cell in the whole pack, and blue means it's the highest cell, right? Easy. But sometimes they are flashing and sometimes not. So I found out when they are flashing, like this one now, we have a minus up here. See the balance current, negative 2 amps. It is discharging number 7 now while it's flashing. Number 5. This is number 5. There's no current going in. Okay, it is still discharging number 7, minus 2 amps. So this goes into the super capacitor, which sits underneath here. I'll show you later. See, number 5 is now our lowest, which is the amp meter here, but it's not charging. It's not flashing. Still discharging. Now it's flashing. Look at this. And we've got positive 2 amps. See, it is charging the cell, positive. And when it's discharging the cell, negative, like now. Isn't that cool? I found this out today. It's amazing. I like it. And we are at 16% state of charge, so I cannot really leave the charger on overnight. It will deplete my battery. I have to wait for more sun tomorrow. It is 20 past 10 now, PM. And I'm still balancing this pack here. It takes so long with these batteries. Look at my workbench. Chargers, 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 e-bike charger, laptop charger, which applies this one, charger, well, not really, power supply charger, the Chinese cracker charger. What is going on here? Okay, I will just call it for today. I'll turn off all the chargers, leave the balancer on. We are at 92 millivolt deviation. I'll leave the balancer turned on overnight so the BMS can balance all the cells. And I'm sure we will be at under 5 millivolt tomorrow morning again. And then we keep going until we've got this one balanced, and then we can charge it up and do the actual test. Well guys, as always, you have a good night's sleep and we shall see us again in the morning. This is stupid. Look at this weather this morning. Gray, rainy, cold. I just wanted to show you how many amps we have outside. 3.6. Early in the morning, 16%. I shut everything down overnight. Inverter was off in the cabinet here. Nothing was running, no chargers, nothing. I just let the battery sit there with the BMS connected and the balancer. And this morning, we can see we've got 4 millivolt deviation. They're all balanced to a 3.37. Now, this voltage is still too low to say they are all balanced. They are voltage balanced, but they are not equalized. Equalized would mean they've got the same state of charge, but they clearly have not. We will see this in a minute when we fire up the charger. There we go. Deviation rises. And now we will see certain cells, see number 6, 3.47, 3.4, 3.34, 34. See, 13, 14, 15 is still not balanced enough. I will just charge each cell individually to 3.5 volts now and let it absorb, so they are all the same then, one after another. And then we can continue charging them as a whole battery. And then we can finally do the test I was making this video for. So, well, I don't know how to explain this. It is a bit strange. Okay, let me start here. I've got the power supply set to 56 volts, right? This should be 3.5 volt per cell if they are all perfectly balanced. So 56 volts, which is connected to the positive of our battery and to the P minus of our BMS here. And the B minus obviously is then connected to our negative. So we've got the BMS in between. There's no current flowing because I have turned off the charger, right? So 0 amps going through this BMS at the moment. But still I can measure a voltage drop of 0.5 volts. Which is insane. This is a lot. This is half a volt of voltage drop with no amps flowing. And I cannot figure out why that is. There should be a row of parallel MOSFETs inside. And if they are turned on, if they are conducting, there should be almost no voltage drop at all. 0. But we've got 0.5 volts of voltage drop. Okay, here, let me show you. I go with my negative probe on the negative of the battery and with a positive one on the negative, on the P minus of the BMS. And look at this, 350 millivolt across the BMS. Now I don't know why. There can only be a voltage drop if there is current flowing. But there should be no current flowing at all. It's off. And this is why we measure a lower voltage here in the BMS, 55.6 only, to 56. And this is exactly the 350 millivolt we see here, the voltage drop across the BMS. Hang on, it is still balancing, so it's pushing 2 amps back and forward inside the BMS. Let me turn off balancing and see if this makes a difference at all. Let's measure again. Negative here, positive over there. It is still 360 millivolt. There's nothing flowing, nothing, zero. Charger off, discharger off, balance off. Everything is turned off in the BMS. Everything is turned off. Here, when I measure my power supply, I have 56 volts. This is exactly what it shows on the display of the power supply as well. 56 volts. When I take the probes and measure at the battery terminals, just like this, we have only 55.6 volts. Exactly what the BMS shows as well here. 55.6. So there are 0.4 volt missing. And there's no current flowing. How does this make sense? I can understand that we have a certain voltage drop across the BMS when current is flowing, due to the internal resistance here, in between these cables and these ones, where the MOSFETs are. But there's no current, nothing, and we still have a voltage drop. So anyway, the question is, how would a solar charge controller react to this BMS then? Because the solar charge controller measures the voltage here at its terminals and sees the 56 as a battery voltage. But the battery voltage is only 55.6. There's 0.4 volt missing. See, I would think if I set this one to 56 volts, it would charge all the batteries to 3.5 volts. Yeah? If they are all balanced. And we can see there's only 2 or 3 milliamps flowing now when I turn on the charger. Because the power supply supplies 56 volts, but the battery is on 55.6 because the BMS swallows 0.4 volts. It will not charge the battery any higher. The power supply thinks it's on 56. The battery says I'm on 55.6. This is all I'm getting from this device here. Where is this 0.4 volt going? So in theory, the charge controller here, the solar charge controller, needs to be set 0.4 volt higher than I actually want the battery to be. Because of this thing. Is this a normal thing with MOSFET BMSs? If there's no current flowing, you got a different voltage from your solar charge controller to the battery? I thought this would be the same. Well, okay, let's set this to 56.4 then. 56.4. Turn on charging again. And now the voltage is rising. So we are charging with 5 amps now. I'm just curious to see what the voltage drop is now across the FETs. And now it is only 3.4 millivolt. So if current is flowing, the voltage drop is lower than as if there's no current flowing. That must be a feature of these MOSFETs. But see, the problem is now in this case, we would overcharge our battery because we have set the charge controller to 56.4. But I just want to charge the battery to 56 volts and it's already higher and it's still charging. Maybe the QUCC BMS with the relay is not so bad after all. I just played around with this whole situation a bit here. So changed the voltage on the power supply up and down and measured the voltage across the BMS. So if there is no or very little current flowing, just a few milliamps, we've got a fairly high voltage drop on these MOSFETs. As soon as the current goes over a certain amount, this voltage drop goes almost to zero. But how does this reflect to the voltage? The solar charge controller has now 56.6 volts and the battery is only on 56.2 volts. So there's 0.4 volt missing across the charge controller and the battery with no current flowing. See, the current is only 1 or 2 milliamps at the moment here. And if I measure this again, 400 millivolt, 0.4 volts. There it is. So I'm increasing the voltage now on the power supply. Just a tiny bit. That's 180, 190 milliamps flowing. And we've got 0.56 increasing more. 300, we've got half an amp flowing now. We've got 0.6 volts difference. 0.8. Almost 1 amp. This is 1 amp, 0.6. That is not good. That's 0.6 volts difference. And they are not conducting. 1 amp is going through. I just increase a little tiny bit more. That's 1.1. 1.2. 1.2 amps flowing. 0.6. 1.3. 1.5 amps, and now it switches on and we've got only 3.6 millivolt difference. Here, 57 volts, the charge controller supplies, and we've got 56.77 volt here. There's nothing. There's nothing because we've got 280 millivolt difference. And this is exactly the difference from the battery to the solar charge controllers, no current. That is not good. Probably have to cross-check this with the Daly BMS and see if this is actually a feature or a problem. Okay, increasing the voltage. We are now at 1.3 amps, 600 millivolt. Increasing further. 1.5 amps, and now it flips over. Around 1.5, 1.6 amps, it tips over, and then we've got full current going through the BMS. And then we are at 3.5 millivolt only. Guys, this is not normal, right? This cannot be normal. This is insane. There's something wrong with the BMS. Unless it's a setting somewhere, but I would not have an idea what kind of setting that could be. Why is there such a big threshold before the actual MOSFETs turn on? It is like you have to increase the voltage before they actually start conducting. That is very strange. I'll do a test with the Daly and see if this is the same there. Okay, I have now set up this test environment here with the 4S configuration and the Daly BMS. Everything is connected already. And we can see we have a overall pack voltage of 13.4 volts. And I'm confirming this here, 13.38, 13.4 it shows. Totally fine. That's measured directly at the terminals here of the battery. So there's no difference at all here. How much difference we have across the MOSFETs? There's 0 volt across the MOSFETs. There's no current flowing at the moment. So same situation as on the other side. But the JK BMS shows already 0.5 volt of a drop. 0.5 volt! Okay, increase the voltage. And now we have 1.5 amps flowing here, 1.6. The BMS shows us 1.8, that's fine. But there is current flowing. And I measure again here the voltage drop across P minus B minus. We've got 2.3 millivolts. Okay, so here's the threshold. Increase the voltage just a tiny bit. 140 milliamps flowing. The voltage drop here from the BMS is 0.2 millivolts. Basically nothing. Okay, increasing the current. Going to 0.6 amps. And we've got 0.9 millivolt. Okay, we are going to 1 amp. 1 amp is flowing. We've got 1.5 millivolt. 2 amps flowing. 3 millivolt. So there is no building up of voltage here across the BMS first, and then it tips over and is conductive. This is as it's supposed to be. So I would say we definitely have a faulty BMS here. Now comes the big challenge to claim this with a seller on AliExpress. Yeah, here again, 56.8 volt we have on the battery. And 57.14 here on the power supply, and there's nothing. There's no current flowing. And if I measure the voltage drop here, 300 millivolt across the BMS. That is definitely not normal. So I would not be able to charge the battery with 57 volts. It will always be this 0.3 or 0.5 volt under the set voltage. So let's say we want to charge the battery to 3.6 volt each cell. That makes 57.6 volts, right? There we go, 57.6 volts. Okay, turn on the circuit breaker. We will have current flowing. It is good. Go full power, 5 amps. So in theory, the battery voltage should rise to 57.6 volts as well, and then we should have no current flowing. Power supply is the same voltage as the battery, no current is flowing anymore. Well, and there we have it, 57.6 I have set, but the battery has already turned off at 57.25, no current flowing anymore. The whole show has stopped, 0.4 volts below the set voltage of the power supply. And the remaining 0.6 volt can be measured across the BMS now with no current flowing at all. That is not correct. Yeah guys, let me know what you think about this problem. I think, from me, it looks like the BMS is faulty. This is not a normal behavior of a BMS and not as it should be, as we have just seen with the Daly BMS, which works perfectly fine. As always guys, thank you so much for watching here. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about this situation here. And thanks for all your support here on the channel. Thanks for all your donations. The giveaway is coming very soon. And until the next video guys, stay charged and stay safe. And thank you again for watching. See you then. Bye bye.